In the demilitarized zone separating North and South Korea, there are two villages. On the southern side is Taesongdong, Freedom Village, a real farming community whose residents live under the strange rules of the DMZ. But less than 1 mile away, on the northern side, is Gaejeondong, which North Korea calls Peace Village. Now, from the south, Gaejeondong looks like an idyllic community. Bright buildings, clean streets, farms, and an enormous flag. It presents the picture of an orderly little paradise produced by a clockwork planned command and control economy. All that, of course, contrasts to the messiness that is South Korea. Sure, it's a prosperous democracy, but it's got problems. Punishing low birth rate, economic anxiety, and a political system so spectacularly corrupt that one of its presidents was removed from office after a scandal that somehow included a Samsung-financed horse. The message from across the border is simple. Look at us. We've got none of that mess. Look at how you could be living. Except Gaejeondong is not what it appears to be. South Korean observers looking through high-powered lenses reported that the buildings are shells. Windows that appeared to be painted on, lights switching on in a pattern that makes no sense if it were actually inhabited by real people. The village is widely believed to be vacant. A Potemkin mirage built as propaganda, once meant to tempt South Koreans to defect. And it's what sits behind that facade that matters, because it is not paradise. It is one of the most brutal states on Earth. The writer Christopher Hitchens once put the human cost in especially vicious terms, pointing out that famine survivors in North Korea average 6 inches shorter than their neighbors to the south. Gaejeondong is an exciting facade hiding untold horrors. And it is with that lesson that the campaign Undertaker is here to bury Graham Platner for Senate in Maine. The central image of the Graham Platner campaign was a facade, just like that North Korean village. Platner failed the one test that actually runs our post-Trump politics, and that is authenticity. Although this time, he didn't fail it because he wouldn't give it. He failed it because he faked it. Authenticity rules, not purity and not sainthood, not whether every voter agrees with every policy. It is a very simple test. Do I believe that you are who you say you are? Graham Platner's opening campaign ad was very, very good. Here's the Maine waterman, the combat veteran who came home carrying PTSD and slowly, in the rural wilderness of Maine, rebuilt himself by working the sea, emerging on the other side a progressive, happy warrior. A blunt, caring husband who wanted to build a family and was ready to fight for working-class people because he was one of them. Man, that's idyllic. A beautifully constructed caricature. And disillusioned Democrats, anxious to oust Susan Collins, oh so wanted to believe it. And yet, it wasn't real. Sure, he had an oyster business, but financial disclosures suggested that it produced a very, very, very small slice of his income, and the only real customer was his mom. He said that he used grants from the government as a veteran to buy his house, but his dad pretty much lent him most of the money. He was a rich kid with a very, very settled family safety net. He wasn't a working class waterman. And it is with that foundation that the weight of every other revelation that came after it eventually made the crater even deeper. Voters knew Platner had been to war. They knew he had PTSD. They knew he had an angry, complicated past. And for a while, Platner's instinct seemed to be that when things came forward, he had to immediately admit he was wrong. We made jokes about it here on this show that he sounded like a golden retriever saying, "Okay, guys, well, blah, 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 blah." But even when the explanation of his Nazi tattoo was, well, a little hard to believe and eventually contradicted by multiple former partners, his immediate snapping back to it felt more like somebody that was trying to do better. And I gave him credit for that on this show. I thought maybe that's the way that he gets through a real life past, somebody who has lived a bit of his life in public. And I'm sympathetic to that. But the noise got louder. We don't have to list everything here. Aside from the Nazi tattoo and the horrifying Reddit posts, there were reports that he sent sexually explicit messages to multiple women after he was married, that he was on a fetish/ possible pedophile app, that former partners described volatile behavior. And it was at that point that I began to lose faith in Platner's ability to win this race because he denied. He stopped coming out and saying, "Let me tell my side of the story. This is a he said, she said, so I need to say my part," and that involves taking a little bit of blame. Instead, his campaign emphasized one former partner's history in Republican politics. They attacked the credibility of people bringing the story forward, including an ex-campaign manager. He blamed his former staff, he blamed his former girlfriends, and when he ended his campaign, he blamed the Democratic establishment and the corporate media that, in his telling, had made itself into judge, jury, and executioner. And it was at that moment that the outsider disappeared. The truth teller hid in the bunker. The facade revealed as hollow. He wasn't a working class guy. He was just another rich kid who failed. He was just a dude who could explain everyone else's role in his downfall, except his own. Now, if you have a bond with an audience, politics will forgive almost anything if voters believe you. And if they believe that you're telling the truth. But voters hate being made into suckers. Authenticity is not a beard, a boat, a tattoo, a combat record, and the right regional accent. Authenticity is honesty. It is the willingness to tell people who you are before an opposition researcher does it for you. Platner did not merely have a checkered past. He sold that checkered past as already confessed, already processed, and already redeemed. And then, each time another piece of evidence emerged, the campaign insisted that the real villain was the person holding the flashlight. By the end of it, Platner placed the main electorate, the media, the former staff, and the former partners in the same role, the cleanup crew. They were left with the gigantic mess. At the center of it, a charismatic man baby who still won't take any blame. Platner 2026's official cause of death in the eyes of the campaign Undertaker is not the tattoo. It's not the Reddit post. It's not even any of the allegations. It's terminal inauthenticity. complicated by a catastrophic refusal to accept responsibility then or now. Gaijondong still looks beautiful from far enough away. And so did the Graham Platner campaign. And with that, we have officially announced that Platner for Senate 2026 can rest in peace.